Talks at Google. My name's Chelsea Berlucci. I'm part of the partner ecosystem team here, Google Cloud at Google. It's great to be here. I'm very excited to introduce our guest today, which will be Reggie Watts. For those of you that don't know, Reggie Watts is an internationally renowned musician, comedian, and writer who has starred as a band leader on CBS's The Late Late Show with James Corden and IFC Comedy's Bang Bang. Using nothing but his voice, looping pedals, and his vast imagination, Watts blurs the lines between music and comedy with a resume that includes multiple specials and appearances on platforms such as Netflix and Comedy Central. His book, Great Falls, Montana, Fast Times, Post-Punk Weirdos, and A Tale of Coming Home Again highlights his life growing up in Great Falls as a biracial son to an African-American father and a French white mother finding his identity. It is my pleasure to welcome to Talks at Google, Reggie Watts.
It's okay to stay here. Do you mind if I stay
Oh,
here?
you want that one?
No, do you mind if I stay here?
Oh, go ahead, please,
Okay, cool,
please.
thanks. All right, thank you.
Yeah, your good side, totally fine with me.
Thanks for having me, finally. We've been talking about this for years, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
So I should say welcome back. It's your third visit, I think, to Talks at Google.
Yes, that's right, toxic Google.
We're pleased to have you, and this time we're talking about your book. And I want to know, first off, what made you decide to write Great Falls, Montana?
It seemed to be the right time for it, meaning that I wanted to do a book, but I didn't really consider myself an author type. But so I was thinking like narrative or like some kind of creative book about like, I don't know, model railroading or something like that. And it never really took fire. And then finally it was like, oh yeah, an autobiography. Oh yeah, that seems easier because you just have to remember your life, which you hope that you can.
Totally.
So yeah, and it was great. And then also it happened during pandemic, so there was tons of time to work on it. So it worked out pretty severely.
That's great. Well, we appreciate it. Enjoyed reading it. I got an advance copy a couple weeks ago, and so you highlight a lot around being biracial. I myself am also mixed with.
What?
Yeah. What? I know.
Give me that hybrid life.
So really being biracial is one of these things where you kind of live a life as being another. You start the book by sharing that when you moved to the States after living in Spain and being born in Stuttgart, Germany, you actually didn't have a citizenship moving over to America. When did you realize this, and do you think any of that not actually holding a home really impacted you?
I think it did, but it felt more, I don't know, it felt like more cool. You know what I mean? That it was like, oh yeah, I was a no citizen until I was 4 years old. Like there's something kind of cool about it. Like I was a nobody. I didn't exist. I was a ghost. For a while, which is kind of cool because I'm like hyper observationally biased in existence. So it kind of goes along with it in a way.
That's great. So you owned the not owning anything.
Yeah, because I didn't really know until I was like, oh, now you're going to become a citizen today. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know. I knew I was alive, and I was around, and people saw me, so I knew that I existed. But yeah, it wasn't something I really thought about until it actually happened.
Okay. So you moved to Great Falls, Montana, which is where the majority of the book takes place, and you talk about growing up there. This is a new environment, having lived in Europe where it was seemingly more inclusive, and you really have your first kind of experience with racism. You are a young child, and you're excited and interested in playing with kids in the neighborhood. You want to experience that Mountain Dew life of kids kind of hanging out, drinking Mountain Dew and jumping in swimming pools. So you go across the street to meet some neighborhood boys, and you get kind of not the welcome you were expecting.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that, but also your parents' reaction to it too?
Yeah. Well, there was a neighbor that was not quite across the street, but just like diagonal, a few houses down. And they were the only ones that didn't have a paved driveway. which was kind of, shouldn't be an indicator, but kind of was an indicator.
We knew what you were trying to say in the book. I got it.
Yeah. But, you know, and we used to call it the Flintstone's house. But anyways, went over there to, you know, they had a young son, and I was like, oh yeah, let's go play. And then the guy, you know, came out and was, you know, told me to leave the premises, and then called me the Z word. I mean, oh, sorry, wrong angle. The N word. And then, yeah, and I just remember it being like, I just was hurt by it. I didn't really exactly know what that word meant per se, but I knew that it was not intended to be very nice. And so, yeah, so I was like bummed, and I went back home, and my mom saw that I was upset, and then I told her what happened, and then she immediately went over there and got in the guy's face and said, if you ever say anything, or something like along the lines of like, if you say anything to my kid like that, or if you touch my kid, I'm gonna kill you. She was like very, she did not. she there was like no nuance.
Did she say in French?
No subtlety. No, she said it in English.
Okay.
But people were really scared of her because she had intensity, man. She was like very intense, but she's a very lovely person. But when she was felt like there was any kind of injustice going on, and she could do or say something about it, like it was going down. And I wouldn't doubt that she would probably try like rig his truck with an explosive or something. Oh, what happened? Oh, surprising, weird, it's too bad.
Oopsie.
Oh, really? Whoa, crazy.
So you get back home after that. Your mom even calls the cops.
Yeah.
And then your father also comes home from work.
Yeah.
And both of them have, I would say, somewhat similar ways of coping with racism. And it's more of a fighting way, but you choose to take it in a different direction, which is kind of what we see how you lead your life forward. Tell us a little bit about your decision to say, oh, maybe I'm not going to do it this way, understanding why your parents would make that mistake too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I've been non-confrontational pretty much all of my life, to a point. But so when I was a kid, I wanted to be in with the kids and to be able to play with kids freely and easily. And so I just always tried to figure out a way, what's the fastest way to assimilate into any situation, And so I became, I don't know, I guess just like a hyper-observational human social hacker, So I would know like, oh, it's these kinds of kids. I bet you they like this, so I'm going to talk about this. Or, oh, I see they're kind of like roughhousing, so they're a little bit more physical, so I'm going to like come in at this angle. Or I bet you they'll laugh if I do an impression of this. Or, I don't know if it was me back, at 5 years old, going like, I see they are these types of humans, so I shall employ this. I don't think it was quite that type of consciousness, but instinctually, I've always like, oh, how do you loosen up a room? How do you lighten up the situation and kind of get in people's good graces? And so that was my way of dealing with it. It's like, don't give them a chance.
And you feel like you still do this?
I still do this. I mean, if I know that people are kind of doing, pulling something or whatever, I always take it as a great opportunity. Like one of my greatest examples is I was in Bolzano, Italy. I don't think it's in the book, but I was in Bolzano, Italy, and a friend of mine invited me there. They were opening up a new performance art wing at the university up there. And so they hired my friend and his partner to put together a coalition of artists to do performances inside of the not yet, or just the empty rooms of the potential of what that wing was going to be. So while I was there, we were going to have a dinner, or we were having a dinner for all the artists. And so I was walking up this cobblestone street. This is Bolzano, so it's like in the Alps, it's in the Italian Alps. It's a gorgeous, beautiful place. And there's this kind of young man quickly walking down the street, kind of nervous energy. And I'm walking up with my friend like, yeah, so, art is, whatever, you talk about art. And this guy's like nervously, I clocked him, he's like nervously walking, and he walks right by us. And just before he crosses in front of us, he says, Heil Hitler. And he passes by, and then I turn around, I go, Heil Hitler. and then just turn around and keep talking about what I was talking about. like it was like a village, you know, and that's their greeting, you know. They're just like, Heil Hitler to you. So what muffins do we have today? I love it. I love it when people, I mean, I've been on buses where they're neo-Nazis, like in Seattle, there was a neo-Nazi on a bus, and, you know, like, I knew he was a neo-Nazi because he really went for it, you know, like he did the neck swastika and everything, and like the bomber jacket and like the white laces on the docks and all that stuff. I saw him, and I just remember, like, I love catching people in an in-between moment where they're not thinking about the character they're playing. Because it's like, you know, if you're a white supremacist, you're playing a character. It is a character that you clocked into, and you purposefully just like, well, today I'm going to play the hateful white supremacist. All right, okay, so I got this. Okay, you got this. I hate you. Okay, let's try it again. I hate you. Okay, I got it. All right, let's go out. So, like, he's on this bus, and I see him down the corridor of the bus, and I'm, you know, standing up. He's standing up, and I look at him, and I just go like that. And I caught him at a weird moment, like he was looking down at something, and he looked over, he's like, oh, hey. What?
Wait a minute.
It's my favorite, but just because I like speaking to that's what I call the actor. It's like people are playing characters, you know, when someone's like, oh, I'm this, I'm whatever. It's like you're being reactive and playing into some kind of a reactionary character. So I like to speak to the actor behind the character and go like, hey, isn't this funny that we're all doing this? Okay, okay, no, you're mad. Okay, I'll get mad too. Yeah, what do you do? Line, are we still rolling?
I like it. You gave him the what's up.
I gave him the what's up, and he was just like, all right. I was like, okay, cool.
Perfect. Okay, I'm learning, taking notes on that one.
I mean, it doesn't, well, whatever.
Maybe, we'll see. Okay, so as you get a little bit older, you describe yourself as a latchkey kid, which I love that too. You get home from school and you are left to your own devices. You explore the home. It's really your playground. You love your basement, your toys. You said your toys added texture to, well, I guess to your world, to your life. I want to know more about that and really you exploring your weirdness. And building who you are as a child, as a latchkey kid?
Well, I mean, yeah, I was an only child, so because it gave me a lot of time, and so when I would come home and be at home without my mom, you know, I knew my mom wouldn't be home for like another hour after I got home, and so I had like an hour to myself, and so I would you know, turn on PBS, and it was my favorite channel, and turn on PBS, and like, I don't know, just cram in as much playing with stuff as possible. And usually I had a chore to do, like I had to vacuum the stairs or something like that. And I would set up the vacuum like at the bottom of the stairs, like plugged in, ready to go. And I would like watch TV and play around. And we had like window wells because I lived in the basement, or my room was in the basement. And I could see the shadow of her car across because the driveway was right at the window well. So you just get like this quick shadow, just like whoosh, like an eagle swooping over or whatever, blocking out the sun. But so I would be like, I gotta, you know, start the vacuum and start halfway up the stairs. You know, gotta have that in progress vibe.
Nice.
So and I'd be like, oh hey mom, what's up? What are you doing? Whatever. It was like she probably knew, but like. Yeah. So it was like my time, and I tried to. I still do it today. To this day, I'm always like, I have a little bit of time. I'm gonna cram in as much as I can to reclaim my time, which is a strange way, but it's from all the way back then.
I think it's being an introvert kind of times.
Yeah. It was like favorite. Like, ooh, I can't wait. That's my time. It's my world.
So then you also share, you know, a little later on, you know, like to goof off, and at one point you go out to dinner with your parents, and it's a nice restaurant, you all are celebrating, but you are having a little bit too much fun with the waiter, speaking in French to the waiter, you're commenting about the tablescapes not being right, and just, you know, normal goofing off as a kid.
Knucklehead.
And your father gets upset and says you're getting in trouble, basically, when you get home. But the rest of the evening goes well, except for when you get home, he holds you to it. This leads to your mother asking your father to leave at that point. he leaves and moves to Cleveland, and you say this is when you can finally be yourself. Can you share a little bit more why it took your father leaving for you to feel like you could open up at that point?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, my dad was just, he grew up with corporeal punishment. You know, that was just like the generation. That's what people did. They got hit with the switch or the belt or, you know, whatever it was. And it was Cleveland, Ohio. You know, I mean, he grew up, you know, I guess he grew up in the 50s, you know, or 40s was more of his generation, like mid 40s and 50s. And so he came from that. But he was also kind of progressive because he was in Europe. He met my mom. He was outside of the black community and fell in love with a white redheaded French lady. And he was just having a great time, like redefining his identity, you know, I think, because he was an only child too. And his father was a gangster. He used to run the numbers, and he was stabbed by two lovers that he was cheating on my grandmother with, because one of the lovers found the other lover that he was with in the bedroom, and they both got really angry, and they're like, well, the only solution is to stab him to death. But so my dad lost his dad at like 9 or 10 or something like that, and then he got a new one who was kind of strict. So it kind of reinforced the strictness, and I think he always had that in his head, and he came from that vibe. But when it came to like, it's modern times, it's him and it's his son, this is the only thing I know how to like bring someone back into line. So he would just do that, and my mom noticed that we were starting, because I wasn't into it, you know, weirdly. I just was like, Dad, that's not cool, man. You know, it's like, you don't have to do that. No, but I mean, it caused a lot of tensions, and I started to dread, you know, like I started to edit myself, and I didn't like editing myself. I started walking on eggshells when I was around him, or trying to trick him into thinking I was doing something or whatever. And we'd get to the point which there was a point at which we almost got into like a physical fight. And my mom sensed this, and she was like, you gotta get out of here. Because he just didn't know any other way. You know, he wasn't seeing a psychologist. He was a 2-time Vietnam War vet. And he had declining health issues, like heart issues and stuff like that. So I think it was just, he didn't know what to do. And I was like, you know, asymmetrical in his logics scheme. So yeah, so anyways, yeah, she asked him to leave, but when he did, I was like, it sucked. My mom was bummed. Like, she was very sad. You know, that was not cool to see my mom sad. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I got more time to myself, and I was actually really grateful for it. Like, I loved it. And so my mom, like, was kind of a single mom, kind of. So, but I don't know. I was helping her, and I had a lot of friends that also had single moms. So there was like a lot of single mom club going on. I liked it. I liked the idea of being orphaned, and I just, because, you know, Pippi Longstocking. Yeah. And so, like, because Pippi. But
you have to read the book.
Yeah, you guys gotta read the book. It's insane. This book will change something. Maybe where you put the salt shaker on the table from now on. But yeah, I think it was just kind of like a confluence of events, and like she was being protectionist, but I actually ended up being for the best. It gave me more time to be autonomous.
Okay. And your parents, yes, they actually stayed together through all of that.
Yeah, they did, Marvin Gaye style. Yeah, it was like, I mean, she's Catholic, and although I do believe she was a witch. So she's a Catholic witch, but she had crazy superpowers. But she, you know, she's like old. She's kind of like, she was like progressive old school, if that makes sense. She was very, I mean, she was Catholic. She wasn't, I don't know. It's like some of the things that she adhered to, and then other things she was really loose about. I think that she was kind of, and now I'm just realizing it now in this talk, that she's kind of a little bit of an improviser. Like she kind of made the world that she wanted to live in, and I think that's why she loved living in the United States so much. She never renounced her citizenship. She was always a resident alien. However, she was very proudly French, but I think that she enjoyed the life that she could create for herself in this small town in the United States called Great Falls, Montana. She had French friends. You know, she just made a life for herself. So it's cool. Like, she was just like lighter version of what she could have been.
Okay. So you talk about then growing up there with your mom, but you also went back and of course visited your father through the years until he eventually came back. in the book you talk about visiting your father, and you were then around more Black people. And that was really your first time in realizing, although you were Black in Great Falls, coming to Cleveland and being in a neighborhood that was primarily Black and cousins and friends, maybe not Black enough. Did you know that going in, that maybe that would be somewhat of the experience, or was this new to you? And you know, can you really talk us through that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing. I'm just having like some new realizations as we're sitting here, but I'm just like, that's pretty weird. What was strange about it is that, you know, I grew up, Montana's like, I think if you look in Wikipedia, it says like, I think it's like 4% Black or something like that, and then there's like, you know, Native American and other and all that stuff, and I think there's also another. There might, if I'm not mistaken, there's another race I think called Asian as well, and I think there's one more, and that, but that's it. That's all there is: Native American, Black, and Asian, and that is it. There's nothing else. No, but so like you look at the demographic, but it just gets progressively just tiny slivers, and the rest is like white. So it's like about 98% white. So, and then of course like the dominant culture, you know, was like very white. So like the movies that we saw, the television shows that we saw, even though in the 80s it was kind of like that weird crossover period where there's always a Black guy, you know, like it's like, hey, it's a Black guy. So they're partners, they don't like each other, but they'll figure out a way, you know. It's like there's a Black guy. It's like, I'm a Black guy, I'm a white guy. Oh man, we can't work together. Oh yeah, I guess we can't. You know, there's a lot of that going on. The A-Team, you know, whatever, 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop. But The Toy. Yeah. So. It was just like, it was strange because like I knew I was different and I was Black, and then like, you know, and I'm functioning however I could in that environment. Then I go to Cleveland, Ohio, and I got my grandma who's like, Redna. I mean, she never called me Reginald, she called me Redna. But she was like, Redna, and I was like, get down here now, you know, and I'd be like, oh, what are you doing? She's like, I'm making chitlins. And I'm just like, I'm out of here because that shit smells terrible. And she had a really beautiful sense of humor, my grandmother. But so she was kind of a grounding force, but she was kind of strict. But my grandfather was stricter, and that's where I figured, oh, that's where my dad got the strictness from. But I'd be there. I'm in this neighborhood, and there's like all these kids. It's like just full Black neighborhood. There was one white couple that lived right across the street from my grandparents, and they'd been there forever, and everyone loved them. Like they were like fully integrated, and it was that way for decades. They were just the only white couple, and they were cool. Like everybody, I don't know. It was kind of nice to see that, but. All Black neighborhood, kids are playing, and they'd be like, what is the deal with you? Like, you're talking like this. I'm like, why are you talking like that? You know, and they'd like make fun of me for that. It would be like, your nose is too big. Like, what's up with your nose? Like, you know, you got this crazy nose, Pinocchio, they used to call me. And, but then like, I couldn't find an in immediately. But then rap was huge, and Fat Boys had come out, and breakdancing was a thing. And so I was musical, so I started doing like beatboxing. And then kids would like start rhyming or whatever, and then I was in, they'd be like, hey, can you beatbox while I do, you know, whatever, whatever the terminology was, but I don't think it was spit rhymes back then. It was probably like, may I rhyme over a rhythmic scheme that you create spontaneously. I think that's probably what they asked me. But yeah, but I mean, that was the end, and then I started to just when I got acclimated, then I had to go back to Montana. So I had probably 5-6 summers like that to experience that, and I didn't really get a chance to really get in there, but I had enough of it that I felt like I'm so glad that I had that experience, because if I was just in Great Falls the whole time, I wouldn't be able to connect with that side, because I think my African American side for me connects mostly with music. I think it's music where that comes out. I think like I'm a little bit more when it comes to, Caucasian, but I'm like I've got more cock vibes when it comes to like other things. It's like, you know, anyways. Yeah, that's how you answer.
Great.
Done.
So you found your social hack then in Cleveland, and was able to connect through music, which is great, I think.
And impressions.
And impressions, right. Of cocks.
Of cocks, yep. My next book, Impressions of Cocks, will be.
Okay, so the one part of the book I love probably the most is just you talking about your friends and your friendships that you built in Great Falls, and they became like family to you. But there was a bit of reluctance in deciding, okay, you could leave after school, you couldn't just go home, you could actually go make friends. So you had one friend that was incredibly persistent, that's one of your soulmates or a soulmate, John Thomas, and I loved hearing about him, but also how that relationship morphed. Can you talk about why you were reluctant to say, oh, okay, I guess I can go hang out and have a play date after school or make friends, and then really what all of that ended up meaning to you?
Yeah, I mean, this kid, it was junior high, and I met this kid, John Thomas, who he was drawing, I think he was drawing he was drawing spaceships, doing cutaway designs, like schematics for spaceships, and then I was drawing cyborgs with like cutaway, like schematics of like, it's like the human part, and there's like, you can see underneath and the robot stuff, and where's the processor going, the wires and stuff. And we were both drawing, like we stayed late after a class, and he was like across the room drawing something, and I was like, oh, what are you drawing? Whatever. And it's just like, oh, nothing, just some spaceships. And I was like, oh, well, I got cyborgs. So we hit it off, and I thought he was cool, but then he just got like really hooked, like single white female vibes, like he was just persistent as hell. So I'd go home, and he would come over, and I would hide from him because he would knock on the door and I'd be like, shit, and because I didn't want to hang out because I was an only child and I wanted to have my own time, to build a railroad set or something. And because I had a lot of work to do on the railroad. It's like I had a contract, schedule. It's like so much work to do, and I just didn't need the distraction. But he would go everywhere. He would go around to all the windows. He would tap on the window wells. He would look in the window wells. I mean, this was like, if this would happen today, he'd be like, help. But he was just so persistent. He kept doing this for like, I don't know, a couple of weeks. And then eventually, I think I just acquiesced, or he caught me when I was outside, and then he brought me over to his place because he only lived like 3 blocks away from me. And I met his brother JJ, and he was into Dungeons and Dragons, and then eventually I was like, okay, I guess he's okay. I don't know. It took a while for me to hook into this guy, but then this guy was probably one of the most important friends because he showed me music that wasn't top 40. I was listening to top 40. I was like top 40 kid every Saturday. I mean, you guys will remember because you're Generation Alpha, but like I gotta Google. But he like introduced me to like the Smiths and the Smithereens and Revolting Cocks and Cabaret Voltaire, things like that, and we called it John music back then. My friend Steve, who was like kind of more of a square jockey guy that didn't really have any allegiances, and he would hang out with us, and he was like, are you listening to John music? It's like, we're gonna listen to more of your John music. But it resonated with me, and I thought it was so cool, and that world opened up for me. So that was huge. So I'm glad he hung in there. He's an amazing guy still to this day.
Nice, yeah. I think you saying that you listened to Top 40 made me feel a lot better about my music taste growing up. Yes, yeah. So thank you. It did make an impact. Yeah, your book. At least that one.
Finally, one impact.
There you go. Yeah, check. So the relationship with John Thomas is always there, really in the backdrop. But when you go to high school, or even maybe it's middle school too, you do something that I think a lot of mixed people do, is that you hopped around quite a bit into different groups, into different clubs. You played football. Jersey number was 69.
Yep.
You did competitive drama, which you'll have to share what that is. Art, music, you were in orchestra, and even different friend groups. You found different people to eat lunch with that were maybe on the outskirts and didn't have anyone, or you could really sit down and with anyone and have lunch. But can you share why you really thought about trying out different things, and were you in search of something or just anything?
Well, I just seen say anything. No, I don't know. I have like a little bit of built-in FOMO. Like I think even before learning about quantum physics, I think I have kind of like a superposition outlook on life. You know, it's like I want to be in all the realities simultaneously. I want to know, like, why are those kids sitting over there? Why are those people functioning like that? You know, like, why is the lunch lady so sad? Like, why is this blah, blah, like, you know, and then also just fucking with people. You
Yeah.
know, like just doing dumb shit to like fuck with it. And I don't know. What was the gist of this question? Because I went too far.
It
off.
was no.
Oh,
it's-
jumping around.
Yeah,
from social
jumping
groups.
around and finding. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Yeah. I think it was just because I'm just like super interested in all these different people, and you know, and I was like a little bit of a, I don't know, still like show business mindset where you're like, gotta have an audience, you know. So in a way, I guess it's just like a selfish thing where I'm like, oh, here's a new audience. Look at that group of people over there. Like, oh, there's some new audience members, you know, something like that. But yeah, I just like to be involved and like to know what was going on, and I was just like curious.
Any one of those groups that you joined, you know, that kind of you held on to for a while? I know that the competitive drama was one that seemed to really open up quite a few doors for you at that point and just release something that made you feel like, oh, I like entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Montana, I think it was at the time it was only Montana and Texas had competitive drama, which was based on the speech and debate format. So there were 5 categories, and I chose humorous solo the first year, humorous duo the next year. But humorous solo was great because I decided to basically just riff, like just improvise, and my teacher was okay with it. So I started riffing at these competitions, and then probably like 5 meets in, I had a pretty well structured piece, and then kind of riffed within it. It just kind of became more structured, but I was still riffing within it. So it was an interesting year to kind of develop whatever that was, but I left it only to the performances to figure out what the show was. And I think I got 3rd place that year. I think that's where all of it came from. It's being like nervous. I'm in a classroom. There's like there's 3 judges in the back of the room. There's like the competitors are in the classroom as well. And I go up to do my 10 minutes. Like next up is Reggie Watts. Whatever. And I get up and I do my bit, or like pull out underwear from out of my pants that have been prearranged, and an extra pair of underwear, whatever. So doing my bits, doing my my stuff, and I think that now when I do whatever I'm doing on stage, it's just that again. It's like more just longer, and it has a looping pedal, and that's it. It's kind of like the same shit, and I love that. So it doesn't ever. It's like having that experience back then doesn't feel as much of an evolution. It just feels like I've performed more hours, but generally it's been the same.
Okay. And that was done with a friend, Wally. A lot of it was. Is that right? Wally?
Yeah, Wally. Yeah, Wally Bossy. Yeah.
Wally Bossy.
Wally Bossy. You can visit him today in Great Falls, Montana, in his crazy, cluttered home with hodgepodge computers and electronics everywhere. And anyways, a really interesting guy. But yeah.
Okay, we'll have to do that. Put it on the Great Falls checklist. He was just one of these friends that was maybe not even in your main friend group, but you had at one point list out literally all these friends that you had that were really like this family. You did a lot of things, drugs. You made music with them. You did some small crimes, some really big crimes too, I'll say. Yeah. And but really, as we said, your friends were like your family there. Can you talk about the evolution of that group, your friend group? And I want to know, how are you in touch with any of them still, or?
Yeah, we have a group chat right now.
Oh.
Talking about all the times. I mean, it was a tight group because when you're growing up in high school, or when you're growing up in high school, like there's so many things that can happen, right? It's like you either fall in with a group and you kind of stay there, or you feel like you're not a part of something, so you kind of keep your head down and you kind of have maybe a friend or a couple friends, but you just kind of want to get the fuck out of high school. And for me, I was like, no, high school's like, this is it. This is the opportunity to live in every high school movie you've ever imagined. like this is it. I can do it. I'm going to try every angle that I can. And so when I met my friends who were just like all like weirdo punk, post-punk weirdo, some of them were punks, BMXers, you know, skateboarders, just weirdos, artists, cool thinkers, equal amounts of women and men, which I really loved about that, because I always needed, there had to be women in my friend groups, and we had just amazing people, and the adventures we'd get into and the things that we would get away with, you know, as a crew. We were our own social group, so we just created our own social existence, and it was also two schools, you know, like two opposing schools, but we're all hanging together. You know, it's like it was like this unity underground, whatever unity group. Yeah, we just created our own culture, and we had a lot of amazing pop culture to help us. You know, there was like all the music that was around then was so supportive of that, and you could go as dark as you wanted to. As heavy as you wanted to, and it was all there for you, and you had to really discover the music, you know, like underground music was underground. You had to either read the zines, you know, get the zines, or when 120 Minutes on MTV came about in, what, 1987, I started watching that. So that was the first time I saw The Cure, just like heaven, like they're like, this band from England, The Cure, you know, like, and then I was like, what is this? I've never seen this. There's a lot of like, we've never seen this before stuff, you know, in the 80s. So like, I got really lucky. It was a good time period. Plus you had like all the crazy fads that were happening, the way that media was starting to accelerate in the way that we receive things. It all went into play for, you know, if I would have been born earlier, I wouldn't have had access to synthesizers. If I was at the right time where synthesizers became cheaper. And that was the goal. And so I had access to it. I finally got a synthesizer because it was affordable enough for my parents to get one. Still expensive, but attainable. And I just think of like all the things that were right. And every single John Hughes movie came out exactly at the age that I was when they came out. So was it 16 Candles came out when I was in junior high, which is mainly about junior high kids and about their imminent transition to high school. And so I was exactly that age. And then when The Breakfast Club came out, I was exactly the right age to see all of those social classes, and then for me to dream of what it would be like to infiltrate those social classes, and Some Kind of Wonderful, and you know, Pretty in Pink, yeah, and 3 O'Clock High, and Weird Science, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All of these things, I really got lucky. Like everything timed out perfectly. So I had these cool templates to throw my imagination to the social reality, and not being neither white nor black, French, neither. You know, it's like I was like, I'm a flexible, dynamic, adaptable quark that's just gonna jump around and, you know, hang out with some gluons and some muons and get our moo on. But because I love milk. Just kidding. But yeah. Anyways, I hope that was.
No, yeah, of course. With a friend, and I think you a lot of times talking about those movies, you identified. It seemed like Ducky happened to be in every single movie because that was always
some kind
you.
of a ducky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like in Some Kind of Wonderful, it was a female ducky.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. A
yeah.
little on the edge there, but always around.
But I liked it because it's a very romantic spot to be in, because when you're like, oh no one likes me, but they do, but no one likes me like that, or what, you know, whatever. Oh, and then like it's just like a mopey, you know, like mopecore. Like it's like if you like to mope, you know, and you're a big moper, like you're stoked. You're like, but your friends still love you,
right?
But you're like, but I'm on the outside, inside this friend group. I don't know. So I don't know. It worked out. There was a lot of like romanticism and adventure in that assortment of humans that hung out together.
And so we have a couple more before we get to our questions from everyone, but you did talk about that group and music and introducing you to a lot of different new bands. You also had a band that was part of your friend group, Autumn Asylum. But you were introduced to music very early on. Your parents loved music, played a lot of different things for you. They encouraged you. Once you asked for piano lessons when you were 5, you did orchestra and picked up a violin and was like a Stradivarius too. You loved it, fell in love. And of course you had a band and then started doing, you know, your own style. For some of us that are not as musically inclined, I want to know what that feels like to love music the way that you do.
Oh, well, I mean, it's it's funny because like I never really thought of it as like I'm doing music, like it's more like it's a language, and I always and it was something that I always tried to mimic it. If I wasn't taking lessons, I would be like trying to reverse engineer it. And so all my life, I think it was a pretty natural thing. I was like, oh, that's a way that you can communicate. That's a way I can express myself, or I can write a song for my mom. I'm going to do that, or I'm going to draw a picture for my whatever. And so I never really had like there was never a separation of like people who play music and people who don't play music. I just thought of music as like, oh, I like to do it. It's fun for me, and there's other people that like it too, and it's just another language that we speak together. So for me, it's really that simple. Yeah, which is kind of strange because when people are like, "What about comedy and music?" It's like they're all the same thing. It's like if I'm drawing a picture, or if I'm riffing with friends, or if I'm doing comedy, it all feels the same. It's just a different tool that I'm using, but I'm at the center of all of those tools. So it just feels like interchangeable to me.
I'm missing that feeling, I think. I got a little of it. Thank
Oh,
you.
Yeah. All right. No, we're going to work on it. We talked about that.
Maybe. And so, of course, most of the book is about Great Falls, Montana, but after you graduate from high school, barely. You graduate from high school, you move to Seattle, and your life takes off from Seattle to New York, and now you're in LA. I do want to note you made a trip back, and both your parents had passed, first your father and then your mother. And so you do some more reflections on life in Great Falls and revisit some folks as well. You'd said at some point you want to spread their ashes at their favorite place in Glacier National Park and gather your friends.
Yeah.
Were you able to do that? Still in the woods?
Not yet. I'm going to do it. I think maybe next summer, just because this last summer it was kind of me acclimating, getting done with the Late Late Show. But I think next summer for sure. I think it's going to be a good adventure. Like, it's what my mom wanted, was what she asked for. So I'm definitely going to do that. But I'm going to throw in some extra stuff where I'm going to take some of their ashes to Europe and try to retrace where they met. And the towns and like the tire factory that my mom worked at, the brake pad factory that my mom worked at in France, and then Stuttgart, the aqueduct outside of Madrid. I forget Segovia, I think is the area. I just want to go to all this and just like spread a little bit, and that'll be like a cool like trip to go from like birthplace, start it in Stuttgart, like try to retrace the steps. Anyways, so I'm going to do that. And I look forward to it. I mean, it's going to be weird, but it'll be awesome. It'll be really good to do.
That'll be great. I think when you share about your mom working for the brake pad company and compare to Jennifer Bilson Flashdance, but you said,
God. Yeah.
In the book he says, but she didn't need a body double because she had her own moves.
Yeah.
That was great.
She did. She definitely had her own moves.
So that's fantastic. We will go to some questions, but as folks are making their way to the microphones, I'd love to know what is up next for Reggie.
So I just wrote a book. I think. Did we? Okay. No. It's like, did we talk about that? No. I mean, I have some EPs coming out. I have like 2 songs with Walker and Royce. They're a techno production duo. I'm really proud of the tracks that we made. I have a band called Wahada. We just released an EP. Hopefully, we'll be playing soon. And then. I have some things that I'm pitching, who knows if, they happen or not, but I have things there. And then, the book is like, I really want to think of it as like a screenplay eventually, doing something with that. And I have some immersive theater production people that I'm going to be doing some experimental, like temporal durational experiences for people to experience other time periods. So I want to start my artificial time travel network, and I think it'll be fun for everybody. I just want to like create as many cool, fun experiences for people, and hopefully I'll get to work with Meow Wolf in the future. I want to design a room for Meow Wolf. Yeah, I basically just want to energize and activate as many crazy, gloopy, absurdist ideas possible, because that's really the only thing that will save us as a human species, is absurdity. It's the only thing that takes you, it just realigns everything. And I think it's incredibly important. And it's I thank the Lords for the absurdists, because I think the absurdists are the ones that save humanity from the brink of extinction.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, you look
All
forward
of
to
it.
it. Okay, good. Are we at the brink yet?
Yeah.
Not yet, guys.
Not happening.
Not yet. Okay, go, 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 go. This is not an apple. This is a hat. You know, or whatever. Those aren't shoes. You're okay.
Okay, I think we'll do a question here, and then we'll go to the dory. Go ahead.
Hey, Reggie.
Hey.
You mentioned a lot of people will clock into a role like the white supremacist. He's like, I got to do my job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Are there any roles that you've clocked into in the last few years?
I mean, band leader, you know, is like one role I loved. What's another? I don't know. Sometimes people ask me, like, they'll think I'm an expert in something, you know, and so they'll ask me to be like, talk about like R&B music or something like that. It's like I know what I know about it, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. So sometimes people ask me to be that, so I just pretend to be that, you know. I mean, I'm trying not to be deceptive, but yeah, those are roles, or like I don't know, even like when someone needs support, there's kind of like a role that I go into. I just like, as an actor, no, I mean, I definitely, I never want to, I don't like it if I'm doing something, if I'm pretending, like if I'm pretending to be caring or something like that I don't do. But oftentimes when I'm doing something new or something, when someone's asking me to be part of something, I have this weird awareness on top of it where I'm like I'm watching myself do it, like oh look, today I'm this guy, you know. And I think it's kind of, in a way, it's a healthy way of having fun, and you don't have to be like so all in on something.
Cool. Yeah, I was curious if you felt like everyone is playing a role at any given point in time, and we're just kind of like switching between them.
Oh, 100%. We're all PCs and NPCs. You know, I mean, simultaneously. It's like, you know, it's like uncertainty. It's Heisenberg all the way. It's like, you know, it's like you're in the distance, you see someone's like, oh, here's a person. Oh, yeah. Once in a while, you got to see someone in the background dropping a piece of paper and bending over and picking it up. There'll be a moment where someone's like, you know, talking on a phone. You know, someone's going to almost run into a wall. You know, like, it's like you got to have all that stuff to make it look like we're in this reality. And so some of us are on autopilot. You know, it's like we can't always be aware of the character that we're playing. So we just defer to autopilot, and then we go inside our heads and going like, I wonder if I should make macaroni tonight, or whatever. And it's just like running. It's like picking up cups and like, I should be in a grocery store buying things so that the store makes money. You know, I do love to think of everybody doing that, and not doing that all the time. I think when you think of life in that way, it lightens it up quite a bit, instead of being like, oh, there's that asshole. It's like, no, that the guy who's like riding your tail right now and like honking at you. It's like he has to do that because, like, you know, you live in a city. And that's like one of the standard things that happens in the city. You got to have one of those.
Oh gosh.
It's like, thank you, sir, for your service. I hate you. I love you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to one online. So
Oh, yeah.
This is Rich, who's based out of Cambridge. I don't know if he's in the room. Yeah. Oh, do you want to ask the question?
Sure.
Oh, do you mind using the mic?
Oh, yeah, because of the online thing.
Can't hear.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
People online have terrible hearing.
I was just curious, who were the funniest guests on Comedy Bang Bang, either on or off camera, or who was surprisingly funny?
Surprisingly funny.
Yeah. I love Adam Scott. He's one of my favorites. He's such a weird dude, and he was always great. I'm trying to think of someone else who was kind of unexpectedly great. Well, I mean, we had Pee Wee Herman on set, and that was he wasn't necessarily funny. He was Pee Wee Herman, you know. But it was a trip to like be like, this is Pee Wee Herman, like, and he looks exactly like Pee Wee Herman, and it's Paul Rubens, but he's Pee Wee Herman. That was pretty amazing. That was very surreal.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay. I'll go do one online, then we'll go to the mic. Okay, great. So the next question is from Matt out of Seattle, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. To what extent are your performances improvised? Are you walking on stage totally blind, or do you have a few small ideas in your head leading up to the performance?
Yeah. No, I don't have any ideas. Like even, what was it yesterday? I was talking with a friend. Like, this is my favorite way to get on stage. I'm backstage. A friend is back there, and we start talking about something that happened in the past, or you know, we're talking about something. And it's like, yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, and I was updating the firmware just yesterday, and I don't know, it didn't really resolve the problem or whatever. And someone's like, they're announcing you right now. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. But anyways, but yeah, I think that you're probably right about that. Okay, but, hey, what's up, everybody? Like I love that, like, just being super distracted before I go on. And then realizing that I have to go on, and then okay, well, I guess I better do this. Okay, I'll go over here first. You know, so yeah, I don't have really any ideas. I like not having any ideas. I don't like to know. Like even today, when you're like, did you read the, you know, did you look at the questions or whatever? It's like,
he did not.
I don't want to know the questions. Like it's because it's not helpful because I don't know how I'm going to feel about it at that moment. You know, it's like I don't know. But I mean, I'm grateful that people prepare questions, of course, but I like to know the least amount possible before I go onto stage because it's I just like to be empty.
I think it's working.
So, hey, Reggie. First time, long time.
Hey, good morning.
So I was wondering, maybe this is the wrong kind of question because you are like a feels first kind of guy. But how do you draw yourself to collaborators you want to work with, or how do you make the most of collaborations that you have access to?
I usually just go by inspiration. You know, if I see somebody, if I'm, I try to go out a lot. I just go out and I'll sometimes just pass by a club, and if I see a weird name on a marquee, I'll just park the car and immediately go in and just see what's going on. I'll walk into theaters. Like, you know, it's like if you've been in entertainment long enough, you can kind of just walk into places. Like they'll be like, hey, what's going on? It's like you're part of the community, you know, so they're just like, yeah, just come on in. Or I can go backstage to certain theaters and stuff like that. So I'll just do that. I'll just take advantage of it. I'll be like, hey, what's going on in there? Oh, okay, cool. All right, let me just watch a little bit. Okay. Oh, that's great. And then I'll like leave and I'll go like, oh, my friend, something's happening in this DIY space. Oh, I'll be over there. And I love just hovering around town and being inspired. So when I get inspired, maybe it's even something I see online. I'll contact someone and then you reach out, and if they want to work together, we do. And not all collaborations work well, but I try to choose people that I feel like intuitively, you know, we can work things out. I'm a person who I don't like to be directed in any projects. I just like, I'll do what I do, and then you do what you do, and then we'll see what happens. And usually that's fine, but sometimes people just can't get out of a director role, and then in that case, I'm like, I'm cool with it, and I just kind of slowly distance myself, and then kind of go like, hey, I'll see you later. You know, and nothing wrong with them at all. It's just like different style of working. So yeah, collaboration is something I love to do, and I usually just go off of inspiration, or I see something and just like, I'm like, oh my God, I know what to do with that person. That'd be great.
Thanks very much.
Of course.
Okay, maybe one more online, unless we have something here. Nope. Jeremy, do you want to go ahead?
Oh yeah, Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I've heard about this guy.
Hey, Reggie.
Hey.
Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy.
It's not every day that I see someone come to give a talk at Google with a sex positivity shirt. I think that's what what your shirt says.
Yeah.
I just wondering if you could talk about what that message means to you.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have a lot of these shirts. They all say different things, but this one just happened to me because like I had like 3 hours to sleep before getting going for the day. So I was like, I'll just wear the same shirt. So we got lucky. But for me, it's about like all my life I've been I don't know, a pretty sensual person, and I love to love, but growing up with a Catholic, sensibility, there's like a shame associated to people who want to have fun a lot, and be sensual and outwardly appreciative of sexuality. And so I like the term sex positive. I think it's kind of nice. It's kind of sweet, which basically just means like don't be afraid of who you are and how intensely you love and how intensely you have passion. If that's for more than one person or whatever it is, don't worry about the conventions. Just feel good about it, because shame is like the worst, and it's so unnecessary. So I like to encourage people to feel good about the things that we tend to get tight about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Reggie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been incredible to have you to read your book. I hope all of you get a chance to. I think it takes a lot to share about your life. It's your life, right? And put it in paper and put it out there for everyone. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.